KTSM 915-544-5876 or comment online on our stream at facebook.com/Talk El Paso. It's 4 p.m. Mountain Time, and that means it's time to talk El Paso with Andrew J. Polk.
Thank you all so very much for joining us here for Talk El Paso, airing live on News Radio 690 KTSM. I'm your host, Andrew J. Polk. Thank you for tuning in however you may be doing so, be it on air, online, live streaming through the free and reliable iHeartRadio app, or joining us over on the various social media pages we're on these days, facebook.com/Talk El Paso, the Talk El Paso channel over on YouTube, Twitter @Talk El Paso, or Twitch, Andrew J. Polk. You don't have to go to all of those. If you're tuned in, you're hearing us, you already got the gist. But those are some of the ways we like having the interaction with the audience. Tremendous response yesterday, so thank you to everyone who did comment, participate, do all that good stuff when it came to our various topics yesterday. Going to keep that going today with a whole lot more focus. I did an unwitting self-fulfilling prophecy a little bit earlier this week about talking about how international things, development things, energy things are very much at the forefront, but that we will probably be getting back before too long to some of the more consistent issues, even just in our area, even if they're not totally connected with the huge international events going on, that, border issues and things like that probably going to creep back up into the focus, and did not totally anticipate that it would be this soon. Looking at a lot of those issues actually in sharp focus today. Matter of fact, some information that's been seeping out from some unexpected sources, including a congressman from New York, of all places, but coming up with information that is, surprising to me, and an analysis that I haven't seen yet. So we'll get into that about the performance of specifically the cartels in this region and beyond, plus a major surveillance program of financial transactions happening, targeting, this area and most other border states along the southern border as well. So we'll talk about those because of the implications, the fact that something that probably a decent amount of people within our region may have done or even considered at certain point in times may have put them on a radar that they didn't even realize that they were on. We'll get into that in a whole lot more details, even as we're looking at, again, I've been avoiding the gas pumps here, filled up middle of last week, and I know that that's going to be a little bit of a tired refrain, but one we're going to be dealing with going forward here, probably for the, again, pick a time frame, foreseeable future is the simplest way I can think to put it as of these days, because it doesn't seem like it's going to come out very often. Because so there are two factors, just to harp on that for a minute, that keep, depending on who you're talking to and the perspective that they are espousing, keep getting a little bit lost, to my opinion. We have seen this increase creeping up of gas prices for a while now. The stark, of course, example being made with callers and other commentators yesterday about gas prices election day versus now. Of course, that's a bit in the past, but we've been seeing that kind of steady creep up as it was already before the whole situation going on in Russia. And it's a probably decently convenient kind of standpoint for administration and other, established officials to be able to say, it's because of all of that in here and they've been causing it. And sure, there's been some analysis on there here, but the fact that we're looking at, analysis varies, but less than 10% of imports have come from that kind of a source, Russia specifically, that now all the embargoes and everything going on to it is coming down to, doesn't truly add up. There is some instability we're already looking at here already, domestically, even ahead of that, energy policy, things like that, that are certainly worthwhile of debating and discussion. But also another one that just irks me more than a little bit is, and this can be writ large across the whole economic situation as it is, about how, there's just, no money. Everyone is just so tight. No one wants to work, and no one is able to pay for things. And yet we are looking at, speaking specifically about oil, record profits, of course, being posted by, you pick an energy concern these days. It's out of Texas if they were shellacked by the winter storm a couple of years ago, but that notwithstanding, looking at serious money coming in for them and serious stock buybacks happening. And then you want to rate that a little bit larger to the whole economy, looking at the huge winners and losers that came out of the pandemic, of course, coming with just record profits, record-setting amounts just outside of their own companies, just like period. For major companies such as Amazon, Microsoft, others that are more than a little bit concerning about how we're talking about this, and is it reasonable? Like all the things that are going on into this here, the continuing, even if they are coming out, pandemic restrictions, most of them have federally, anyway, your state-by-state example may vary wildly, as is the great example between Texas and New Mexico, of course. Looking at a variety of things either ending or sunset dates in mind already, seeing it petering out of, among other things, that whole national trucker convoy. I mean, there's still a presence within D.C., heard from friends in that area, that it's tying up traffic a little bit, but not anywhere near the kind of order of magnitude that was being talked about when it came to, say, Ottawa and Canada and their situation. Amazing the difference a couple of weeks makes in both perception and then the activation of it within reality. But this is the part that irks me when it comes to all this analysis, all the shortages, things can't be had, we're going to be dealing with all these issues. It definitely seems like there are those better positioned, whether you take however that means or not, to then deal with this and are definitely wreaking havoc on the policies of it here. RJ pointing out with the gas, saying Biden policy got the gas to 40 or so. The war did the rest here. More or less. I mean, wasn't quite that bad that I was seeing anyway, but I pick my moments to get gas, I guess, even that's going to be a skill that I may or may not be able to actually employ into the near future here. I mean, we've definitely been seeing a move. I mean, the exclamation point here, even if the point being made about it is a little bit overwrought sometimes about the Keystone XL pipeline, no, it would not actually be able to be in effect right now, even if it had continued to pace without any interruption. But it did, of course, set an exclamation point on that policy out of this administration, making it very clear how they were going to consider this at that point in time. And then that circumstance here, that then actually leads me to the other point here about reality basis, getting some pushback there for my saying that we need to look less at ideology and more at reality and what the impact of policies actually are. And we'll definitely get into that more here in this show here amongst the other topics here, because looking at just the functionality of things has always been paramount, but we definitely seem to, at least in the national conversations, have gotten quite a bit away from that. And more about, I think this value is best and should be implemented and everything will work out fine downstream. And sure, there are then those in power or those in the wheels of power mechanisms being able to then make things effectuate that way based on their ideology. We're looking at an inflection point that has been, pick a couple of generations really, not been seen, to where if things aren't based on what works and what doesn't, and moving forward on the ones that do and leaving behind what doesn't, we're probably going to be in a lot worse situation, because even with those record profits being talked about, some of that can be definitely described as being governmentally influenced subsidies, particularly for things like Amazon and the oil and gas industry writ large. But we have got needs and serious issues that even if you've got this disconnect floating above it all kind of sense coming from these, again, huge entities, that if they're not able to then actually perform and come down to it, the bottom's going to fall out, and there is no conceptual stopper big enough to stop it from draining if there isn't a reality in place coming along with it here. So that's a lot to say, that we got a lot to talk about and a lot of issues to go into. So a couple of specific things we're going to be delving into here today. A bit of just interesting outside perspective when it comes to the ongoing border issues here. We certainly talk a lot about it. Won't be necessarily something totally revolutionary, but some of the stats coming out of it, again, from that congressman out of New York. We'll play that clip and talk about it here coming up. Plus, again, that surveillance program that, if you have ever sent money from this area to anywhere south, you may have been involved in. So we'll get into that and a whole lot more. So stay tuned. More Talk El Paso here after this break on News Radio 690 KTSM. Your host, Andrew J. Polk. Comments coming in. Get to more of those and such. Stay tuned. Don't go anywhere. More Talk El Paso.
Traffic all day. News Radio 690.
10 westbound at Mesa, that's exit 11. There's a white semi-rig that's blocking the right shoulder. On the 10 westbound at Geronimo, debris in the roadway at the Geronimo exit, a stalled vehicle that's blocking the right shoulder. North part of the valley, Loop 375 eastbound at Railroad Drive, the right shoulder is blocked because of a stalled vehicle. Sheriff's on the scene of an accident, Pelicano Drive between Lee Trevino and George Dieter at Lionel Drive. Carrie Edwards, El Paso Traffic.
This report is sponsored by Indeed.com. If cold candidate calls aren't turning into hot hiring leads, then you need Indeed, because Indeed's powerful hiring platform makes it easy to attract, screen, and interview candidates all from one place. Find your next great hire visiting Indeed.com/credit.
Who can you trust in big media? A recent study finds Americans don't trust big media, and 65% of Republicans don't trust them at all. Now, Newsmax has become a trusted source for millions. They go to Newsmax.com for breaking news and watch Newsmax TV for the latest from Washington, New York, Hollywood, and the world. Download the free Newsmax app on your smartphone and watch it anytime, anywhere. Nielsen recently reported that almost 7 million cable viewers watch Newsmax, but not Fox News. Americans really are making the switch to Newsmax. Start every day with Wake Up America and Rob Finnerty. And watch the Newsmax team at night with Eric Bowling, Sean Spicer and Lindsey Keith, Greg Kelly, Stinchfield, Jen Pellegrino, Rob Schmidt, and more. Every weekend, tune in for Huckabee, Diamond and Silk, Dick Morris, Wendy Bell, and more. Already 20 million made the switch and watch Newsmax all the time. Try it. You may never go back.
Anyone can get long COVID, even Caitlin, age 20.
I got COVID in November 2020. In January, I started having long-term problems. I was a varsity soccer player in high school, and now I get winded just from walking. I can't remember things. It's just unbearable.
Getting vaccinated against COVID-19 is the best way to prevent long COVID. Find vaccines near you at vaccines.gov, paid for by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services.
So the dream was to build your very own law practice. Be your own boss, call all the shots. But have things like billing, HR, timekeeping, and all the other management stuff turned your dream into a nightmare? Take charge of your practice with Lexicon. We're the intersection of practice management software and legal support services for your firm. You'll get more billable and livable hours back. Lexicon marks the spot for all your practice management needs. Visit lexiconservices.com/intersection to get the whole story or schedule a demo.
180 over 111, and I had a stroke. I couldn't speak or walk.
This is high blood pressure. Get back on your plan. Go to loweryourhbp.org. Brought to you by the American Stroke Association, American Medical Association, and the Ad Council.
News Radio 690 KTSM.
Live from the KTSM AM 690 studios, it's Talk El Paso with Andrew J. Polk. To be a part of the show, follow on Facebook at facebook.com/Talk El Paso. Now here's your host, Andrew J. Polk.
Thank you all so very much for joining us here for Talk El Paso, airing live on News Radio 690 KTSM. I'm your host, Andrew J. Polk. Thank you for tuning in, however you may be doing so. A lot of ways to interact with the show. Of course, we have got the social pages if you are interested in doing so. Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, and Twitch. RJ commenting over there. Flaco Jimenez dropping that like. More than welcome to if you want to do that as well. And a lot of discussion to be had about the issues affecting us here in the borderlands. Some of the, of course, saw tons of analysis, more than we could fit into our show every day, about the impacts happening internationally. One of the ones that is coming to mind for me anyway, some of the details, I guess, about food instability. Of course, we're no strangers to what may or may not have been available on the shelves around here. Not exactly reaching catastrophic, concerning, absolutely. I will 100% agree with that. But not exactly like, I hope you had something in your pantry because you're not getting anything at the store today kind of thing. Well, yet, anyway. Not to go total doom and gloom on it, but very specifically looking at some of the charts and expectations, futures for various kinds of agricultural products here. And, well, weirder, again, is a phrase that I'm getting a little bit of flack for, but I feel like it defines the situation best of all because things are probably going to get weirder before they get better here. I mean, some of the futures on things like basics, wheat, corn, soybeans, and then, of course, fertilizer, we've talked more than a little bit about, looking at spiking kind of across the board in a lot of these kind of very baseline agricultural products here. So what we actually produce in this area is probably going to be an important question going forward. So, and to bring that further home here, what's coming out of the whole remediation, I guess is still the best phrase for it, out of the Rio Grande corridor from that sewage being dumped there and the impact it might have on agricultural products here, absolutely going to be something, as we continue to get into that season here, going to be something to be looked at and what that might mean for us. And local food systems, we've talked with people about that in the past, might be another good time for y'all to take another gander at it, just as a Good point. It's also Catherine Cordry with a clarion call coming on over on the YouTube. Again, you can comment over on all of those. One of the better ways to do so throughout the show here. But again, that mild self-fulfilling prophecy that I did not entirely intend to make about border issues coming back into sharp focus for me anyway. Not that there's been any real upheaval for the most in this area. I think the status quo is pretty familiar at this point of what we're looking at, the resources that are being needed and expended anyway, but may not totally be reaching the levels that are actually needed when it comes to manpower, staffing, resources, infrastructure, technology, all those good phrases when we talk about RJ saying, yeah, I might want to take up gardening, and John Browson, no shortage of chili peppers, probably, but again, things weird. Just weird is the best way I'm going to put it, because their availability of traditional ways of doing it, like, going to the store is what is traditional for most people at this point. It might not be totally available. So maybe get some seeds is kind of what I'm saying here. Gardening is not a bad idea, even if the fertilizer situation might be a little weird going forward as well. Again, I am not aware of anything just yet saying that it's just straight up gone, not going to be available. Good luck, have fun, go about your day. But we're closer to that than I would like to be. And on the flip side of it, in all of this discussion, supplies, all of it that we've been having, has of course been its own level of concern here. But there's been this interesting, sometimes it takes an outside perspective to make you refocus on something that you've gotten used to, right? Or that you've been thinking way too much about. Again, I spend entirely too much time on the internet, among other things, and refocusing on border issues. I totally disintended it as like, yeah, maybe we'll get back to it once it comes back into focus. But again, an outside perspective can sometimes help. Randomly, there we became aware of a Representative Chris Jacobs, Republican representative from the New York 27th Congressional District, and who had apparently done his own little fact-finding mission down to our region as of starting of, last week, really. Not part of a big tour or any of the other usual things, it doesn't seem like, anyway, and posted this on Twitter, actually, a little bit early or late last week, actually, early this week.
Hi, Chris Jacobs here down at the southern border. Flew in last night to San Antonio. Now we're in the Del Rio sector. Just had a tour of the detention facility here, a briefing by the Border Patrol. It was very informative, very disturbing. This year, 2021, 228,000 interdictions, 85,000 known gotaways, probably double that in real gotaways. That is a 9-year high. Their prediction is that they will be 100,000 over that amount in 2022. So the crisis here at the border continues. I would also say that I can sense in the time that I've been here from last time, the Border Patrol's spirits continue to be pummeled. They are overtaxed, they are overworked, mandatory overtime, 6-day work weeks, and Congress has not responded with allowing additional staff and backup. This is not how Border Patrol should be treated. This is not the way to defend the southern border from criminal elements, from cartels, from the fentanyl coming over. This is not humane to the individuals coming over, and certainly not to the Border Patrol. Joe Biden needs to do better. His words rang hollow this week at the State of the Union. He needs to get down here and see this firsthand.
So that, pardon the wind noise there, that was from his Twitter account there, if you want to find it for yourself there, over at twitter.com/repjacobs. Again, Chris Jacobs from the, again, New York 27th Congressional District. Not technically a lot of revelation there, I think, for most common listeners and callers and commentators on this program. Nothing totally revelatory. That statement actually coming late last week, and then early this week, still in the Del Rio area where he was visiting, talking about some of the visits, some of the things he was learning, calling it a fact-finding mission overall, and then held this as a news conference and put out a press release of it and his remarks for delivery here, some of them marked up by me, about what he says he learned there. And one of the ones that stuck out to me the most, again, a lot of common factors here that regular listeners to this show will probably be very familiar with, calling it a humanitarian and national security crisis. The records for apprehensions. The one that really jumped out to me and is getting a little bit more analysis and has been hard to find much more on is that the amount that actually cartels are making. It's been my contention for a while now that the cartels are just loving the attention. I mean, they're making hand over fist, and the situation that happens out of that, of course, is, people and illicit substances move north, and then guns and money move south as they continue to essentially try to consolidate control in their areas and enact their will. Essentially what it comes down to. So what he put it here is that in speaking with DHS, Border Patrol, related agencies, that in April estimated that cartels were making $11 million a week from smuggling activities, and that number has essentially doubled now to $24 million a week. And that along with illegal crossings and smuggling activity skyrocketing here. This again coming from his news conference and a release subsequent to it with his prepared remarks after it, which is a number I'm not seeing reflected much elsewhere, and is very interesting one because that's part of the analysis we don't get much around here in this section. Is sure we talk about the apprehensions, we talk about the staffing and the resources required to do it, but then actually what they are making from it, the cartels that is not something I see much else on. Been spending most of the day today trying to find further verification of this here. And again, not sure why this gentleman made this trip here outside of course, purview as part of Congress and federal agencies out there, certainly within his right to. But some of his local commentators up in his area saying, why are you going from New York down to the border? Which, I don't totally buy. But just that analysis alone puts it in a little bit of a different light for me. Because the actual income, what they are actually getting out of it, there was never a whole, altruistic, cartels doing this out of the best of their heart kind of thing. They're in this for the money. Actually, one of the thoughts that came up to me when we got versus our previous callers this in last week about Mexico's petroleum industry and how lackluster, to paraphrase, it is. That has actually been one of the activities that cartels for years have actually been involved in, is actually oil smuggling, or specifically siphoning off of the petrochemical companies and then reselling it on their own, because that's how crazy things in certain areas and unregulated circumstances can get there. And that kind of harkened back to it. But the actual money analysis and how much they're making out of it, and now the impact of that is not too hard to see, of course. We have seen previously in, on the, southern coast of Mexico, where federal and local, state, and even federal authorities literally outgunned by the amount of material and firepower being brought out by the cartels. So actually putting a number on it is something that I don't feel like has been much talked about in the past here. So going to be wanting to look further into this, because actually saying that, yes, this is the impact that we are seeing, not just on this side, tons of analysis that happens on what the costs, the resources, the time, the flights, all of that kind of thing coming out of it. Well, that's been a decent amount of our airtime on this program, but that they're actually making this much out of it. To put that in a rough perspective here, that would be during the height of the construction of Fort Bliss. That would be an order of magnitude more than was being put in a week to that level of construction. So not exactly an apples to apples comparison here. I'm sure they have a very different procurement process, but once you start talking about that level, that amount of money being made from it, the entire comparison point there is to give you an idea of what that can mean, what you're able to do with that level of resources. And there's a lot of analysis that I follow about, what cartels are doing, and the fact that we have relative stability. Relative is the key word there. Don't come at me when it comes to this side of the border and actual activity from cartels, though we've been seeing that, of course, increase a bit with them not as content to just deliver, drop off, and then move on from one side of the border to the other, but increase actual smuggling activities, including a release from Department of Homeland Security and such this week of about 150, just shy of, in several different apprehensions in the kind of that Del Rio sector, actually including one of 86 specifically interdicted being moved on this side of the border here. So that is increasing on its own. But the way that then this puts it in with that, again, being told by this congressman from New York about $24 million a week being made from border activities writ large from the cartels is, well, wonder how that will then play into the resources that might need to be dedicated back to it. Of course, there's a whole lot more to talk to on this, and we got to take that next break right now. And Claire's saying more baloney here. I think there was something that was slightly aimed at me from that statement, saying it's easy to make light of that, but any smuggling and the ability for it to happen, it just facilitates further ones. So, we got to get more into this here after this break. You're tuned into Talk El Paso here on News Radio 690 KTSM. I'm your host, Andrew J. Polk. We'll get into more of this. Maybe open up those phone lines here in a little bit. Otherwise, stay tuned. We'll talk El Paso after this break here on News Radio 690 KTSM.
El Paso's News Radio 690 KTSM.
Hello, I'm Erica Castillo with this KFOX 14 News Update. The El Paso Independent School District has lifted its face mask provision. Starting today, wearing a face mask will be on a voluntary basis for students and employees in good health. The notice was sent out to parents today by the superintendent. Diana Sayavivida stated the district will return to face-to-face procedures for all district business, including professional development, community meetings, and professional learning communities. The Centers for Disease Control over the weekend downgraded the COVID-19 community rating for El Paso to medium or yellow. EPISD is currently in intersession and will be on spring break until Monday, March 14th. And the KFOX 14 Severe Weather Team is tracking several systems that will move through the region, keeping us breezy to windy through Friday. Winds out of the west-southwest could be as high as 35 miles per hour. Similar conditions are expected tomorrow with wind gusts slightly higher. Daytime highs will settle in the upper 60s and low 70s. I'm Erica Castillo with this KFOX 14 News Update.
News Radio 690. Traffic all day.
After a cool start to the week, temperatures will gradually warm over the next couple of days, with winds turning a bit gusty ahead of our next storm system. Tonight, expect another cold night with a mostly clear sky and temperatures in the middle to upper 30s. Coming up tonight, we'll talk about stronger winds for Thursday, plus when temperatures will turn much colder. From the KFOX 14 Severe Weather Center, I'm meteorologist Kira Miner.
This report is sponsored by Kelley Blue Book. Kelley Blue Book Instant Cash Offer is an official offer to buy your car. Enter your vehicle ID info, answer some questions, then get a no-obligation offer to sell or trade it. Then choose a dealer to purchase your car. Schedule a time and drive away with confidence. For all of the its, kbb.com it.
What's done more to improve overall health and wellness? Modern medicine or personal hygiene? Actually, it's both. But considering that bathing went mainstream in the 1800s and brushing your teeth in the 1900s, isn't it time for something new, like cleaning your nose? After all, your nose is the body's air filter for trapping dirt and germs, the first line of defense against allergens, bacteria, and viruses from getting into your lungs. But how do you clean your nose? With Navage. Navage isn't medicine, it's more like plumbing. Navage uses powered suction to pull saline in one nostril to the very back of the nose where germs can get trapped and multiply, and then out the other nostril, flushing out mucus and microbes so you can breathe better, sleep deeper, snore less, and stay healthier. Join over 2 million others and find out for yourself how refreshing and easy to use Navage is. At Navage.com, Walgreens, CVS, Rite Aid, Bed Bath, and Target. Navage. Clean nose, healthy life.
I love when my friends stop by, but to help keep my friends and my family safe, I always spray Lysol in my home before guests arrive and again after they leave. Nothing kills more viruses on more surfaces than Lysol disinfectant spray. Lysol, what it takes to protect. Use as directed.
If cold candidate calls aren't turning into hot hiring leads, then you need Indeed, because Indeed's powerful hiring platform makes it easy to attract, screen, and interview candidates all from one place. Find your next great hire visiting Indeed.com/credit. This report is sponsored by Indeed.com.
If you see something, why do you say something?
I see safe for my friends.
For my community.
For everyone here. We all have something worth protecting, a why that unifies us. Report suspicious activity to local authorities. If you see something, say something.
News on the hour and a half. Traffic and weather all day. Keeping you informed and up to date. El Paso's News Radio, 690 KTSM. El Paso's News Radio, 690 KTSM.
Live from the KTSM AM 690 studios, it's Talk El Paso with Andrew J. Polk. To be a part of the show, call 915-544-KTSM or follow on Facebook at facebook.com/Talk El Paso. Now here's your host, Andrew J. Polk.
Thank you all so very much for joining us here for Talk El Paso, airing live on News Radio 690 KTSM. I'm your host, Andrew J. Polk. Thank you for tuning in, however you may be doing so, be it on air, online, live streaming through the free and reliable iHeartRadio app, or joining us over on the various social pages, facebook.com/Talk El Paso, the Talk El Paso channel over on YouTube, Twitter at Talk El Paso, or Twitch, Andrew J. Polk. As Flaco Jimenez saying in regards to our subject from this last segment, and continuing on now about that visit to the primarily Del Rio sector of the border, but border issues overall similar to sector, including, of course, the El Paso sector, saying that chaos on the border affects New Yorkers as well when it comes to that visit, again, by Chris Jacobs from the 27th District of New York. Again, weird playing out with his own local audience up there, but just not the usual visit, at least not that I'm aware of anyway. We've seen the state level efforts. You want to be specific about that, what Governor Greg Abbott has done, bringing down those attorneys general in conjunction, of course, with Texas Attorney General Ken Paxton and those kind of things. This was a one-off that come up with those interesting figures about the actual money being made by cartels that I'm hard-pressed to find much referenced elsewhere or in similar amounts here. So an interesting wrinkle as we keep having these situations evolve here. And, the smuggling that comes along with it. Again, Ed Clore bringing up the bologna, which I still don't get. It cannot be that good. But, of course, the avenue for smuggling, if it can work for bologna, it can probably work for more serious substances as well. RJ saying ivermectin, stop ivermectin, let fentanyl flow here. Another way to put it. And Diana Sanchez saying Biden will not do better, amongst others. A lot of comments going on there. One other program I wanted to mention that's going on alongside of this, that more talk happening actually yesterday out of the Senate, actually. A bit of a federal focus, I guess you could put it more overall today, is that there has been a program in place for, depending on how you look at it, either 2019 or going back the better part of 10 years, when it came actually, believe it or not, first reported on by BuzzFeed News, credit where it's due, that, just the headline here, ICE conducted sweeping surveillance of money transfers sent to and from the U.S., according to Democrat Senator Ron Wyden, W-Y-D-E-N, that this was specifically focused on money transfers used by things such as companies, and one specifically mentioned in the information that this senator put out, Western Union, to Mexico from border states, including bulk collection of potentially millions of transactions done by American citizens. So this was done, money transfers of over $500. And of course, that number is an interesting one, given that there was that whole kerfuffle over the whole IRS regulations and collection about money transfers and that kind of a thing. But again, this is raising questions about constitutionality amongst other things. And the upshot of it is, living here, again, the states included Texas, New Mexico, California, Arizona, and at least one other, if I'm not mistaken here. And, Arizona, California, New Mexico, Texas, and Mexico. So Mexico being the to and from kind of situation from there, specifically since 2019, according to the senator, that this program has been done, that this information may have been getting collected through a somewhat Byzantine system of non-judicial requirements of release here. Essentially, no judicial oversight, no judge saying that, yes, we're allowed to create and gather this specific information through a nonprofit organization, the Transaction Record Analysis Center, or TRAC, T-R-A-C, that then provided this data and information, the access to the bulk data, without any kind of court supervision, according to Wyden in that letter that was obtained by BuzzFeed News. So if the upshot is, in this region, or anyone that you probably know, if you sent or you did any transactions using specifically money orders, Western Union was quoted in the article as well, you may have had your information and the data on that, if it was over $500, specifically tracked and provided to federal agencies, which is a, interesting circumstance that I don't have much personal impact here. I've never found myself in that situation, but I can certainly understand that there are going to be a lot of people in this region that may have had their information scooped up in this and be wondering what that could mean. And specifically, the question that Senator again Wyden asking is this constitutional? Does this have serious, and I mean, obviously to me it does, Fourth Amendment issues along with it, because warrants not exactly looking like they were part of it here. And yeah, so that's just another one of those border issues coming sharp into focus for me here today as we're talking about all the things going on around the world. It's easy to forget that even if I'm spending way too much time looking at the situation out of Ukraine and the impacts that we're seeing economically anyway and at the pump, that there are things still keep happening and moving and all of that here. So again, 2019 is when specifically it looks like this data was being provided to federal agencies and of other lower levels, but then also that this information may have been getting gathered in bulk in general since about 2014. So that's something coming out, that more investigation now being asked about at the federal level here as well. So the John Brazelton saying Congressman should look at northern U.S. border. Illegal immigrants and illegal drugs are coming across the U.S. border there as well, and that Border Patrol agents and customs inspectors have to be able to speak French rather than Spanish. I mean, it is true. And to put this into focus, then this program only focused, of course, on the southern border here in our area, and apparently not then on the northern border. So just border issues do continue to keep happening in the middle of this, even if the impact of things like this have to remain to be seen, what this is actually going to mean for anyone. I mean, there's possibilities of prosecution being overturned that come along with this, along with more broadly being put by the analysis I'm seeing from this, concerns about faith in institutions and how things are actually being dealt with, but that's not exactly a new issue in this latest advent either here. Let's go ahead and open up those phone lines here. We've talked about a lot of disparate issues here today, and I'm sure there's a lot more commentary to come in here. The number to call, 915-544-5876, 544-KTSM. Do have Danny on the line with us here right now. Danny, thanks for joining us.
Oh, yeah. How are you?
Doing all right there. What's on your mind?
I want to talk a little bit out of the... Well, I can speak to you about the border situation, but I'd rather speak to you about the diesel, I'm sorry. The oil thing that's going on. And I was thinking, and I've been listening about the tax that's put on in almost every state for gasoline, and how they can walk that back and give a little breather to the regular folks. And the other one that I was thinking about was the really not the oil production, but the refining production of gasoline and diesel. We're limited to refineries. And since we're limited, our production is limited by the amount of refineries that we have. Our oil is a little bit expensive. The oil companies seem to be able to manage the price or the cost of gasoline by the refining power that they have. So what we need, I think, we need to look at the refineries and the way that we can produce more gasoline out of the petroleum we have and open up the tap oil that we have here in Texas. There's thousands of, I don't know, thousands, but they tell me there's a lot of wells that are capped. And the reason they're capped is because we don't have the refining capacity for them. So they can only produce so much, and the pipes can only carry so much. So I think we're not getting a true picture of what's going on.
As happens in most situations, absolutely here. I mean, let's look still internationally here for just a second more. Specifically, I mean, there was the whole "you can't sit with us" kind of mention being made when Saudi Arabia, UAE, not wanting to talk with the Biden administration in this last week about increasing production because they're going to be raking in the dough. I mean, $200 a barrel, and they haven't changed anything on their end. That just means that they've literally doubled their profits. So they don't exactly have an onus on them to do diddly, frankly, when it comes to it, because they can just truly rake it in. I mean, the only time that they really saw, even under the the Trump administration, their increase in oil production is because they felt they were losing market share, so that even if things did ramp back up and get back to levels where they wanted it to, they still weren't going to be making enough money. It all comes down to the bottom line for them. This is not exactly a surprise, even if it might, international observers and those in the international participation and diplomacy community might be like, we're aligned with you. Why are you being such jerks? But that's by the by. They're going to do whatever the hell they're going to do. But yeah, the idea of state level taxes being changed with it is an interesting one. It might actually have more of an issue here in Texas than is realized. Among other things, we've talked previously about, two things. That constitutional amendment that we have coming up early in May now, ahead of the runoffs here, just to keep it straight. There are specific provisions. The two that are on there are about essentially increasing the amount of homestead exemptions and decreasing the amount of taxable amount of a home, basically making it that people in homestead situations will pay less on their taxes when it comes to schools, but then Texas making that up on the back end so that schools won't be seeing less funding, but will rather be more directly funded from the state as opposed to individual, property tax revenues. And more than a little bit of that is going to be built on the idea that has become a plank, of course, of the statewide Republican Party of decreasing taxes, or let's just say, existing property taxes is the real big bugaboo, but among other things, and making it more usage and things of revenues, sales tax, things like on oil and gas. So I got to wonder, there's been, of course, quite the push this week from state level and even nationally, but Texas-based politicians to say, yeah, let's drill, let's do everything in Texas. Moscow or Midland over Moscow was the phrase that the governor used. And if they're now not going to then see the back end state impact to that, I wonder what the willingness there is. Because sure, in places like California, I don't live in California for a whole lot of reasons, amongst other things, the taxes and the gas and all that comes with it. But I wonder how here in Texas, like maybe New Mexico would be willing to do that, even though they've, of course, got their big new proposition when it comes to teacher pay, kind of also hinged to the whole use of those revenues. So there's going to be more than a couple of political futures and machinations being affected by that push to see the relief at the pump. And I wonder when the push is going to come to shove for a whole lot of people. But to your last point, they're actually about refining capacity. I'd heard this for a while and just looked it up finally, that sure, there was a new refinery built in the United States in 2019, the Targa Resources Corporation, but that prior to that, and this according to the United States Energy Information Administration, the last previous refinery built in the United States was in 1977. Yeah. So, yeah, that's an issue.
Yeah, I knew it was something like that. So I really appreciate you talking about that. Something we should look at. And I think it's something that maybe when we have the elections again, we can maybe vote for a little Bush. Isn't there trying to get the Railroad Commission? I saw that. I think I saw that in my ballot.
Potentially. I mean, the Railroad Commission, that got brought up yesterday by one of our other callers here, because it is, the history of the Railroad Commission is its own damn show that I won't get into here. But essentially, OPEC was modeled on the Texas Railroad Commission, and that is not even hyperbole. Like literally, the people that were some of the earliest commissioners and putting things into place for that got hired by OPEC in its nascent days in order to create the same system. It's a little bit nuts and worth looking into if you got a bit of time to go down a rabbit hole, because how it works in this state is weird. I use that word too much, but it keeps being the only one that I can think of to apply to a whole lot of things. So thank you for that point and that call here. We are taking those calls right now. If you wanted to do so, the number to call 915-544-5876, 544 KTSM. I got to take that next break right now. Coming out of the break, we'll get to more of those calls, more of those comments, more of those issues and things affecting us here in the borderland. So stay tuned. More Talk El Paso after this break here on News Radio 690 KTSM. With all the uncertainty that's going on with all of these issues here, I usually, previously in previous years, I'd like to travel and go around, try new things, taste new flavors, do all of that. Hasn't really been on my plate in these last couple of years. And even with whatever is going on, there's something actually locally that I found out about that I'm very excited to be able to talk about, and that is your local source of quality flavored olive oils and balsamic vinegars, enhanced flavors. They source their olive oils and balsamic vinegars from around the world, Tunisia, Italy, Greece, and Spain, for their olive oils, extra virgin olive oils, and flavored varietals, and of course their balsamic vinegars straight from the Modena province of Italy. And you can find enhanced flavors. They're out at the farmers markets that are going on here. I know that a lot of people want to get out, do things, taste new things, and this is a great way you can do so and support local. Take your taste buds around the world without ever leaving home and really spice up your life. You can find them again, farmers markets, or find them where they're going to be over on their website, enhancedflavors.com. That's enhancedflavors.com.
Traffic all day. News Radio 690.
I-10 eastbound at Viscount, look for a stalled vehicle blocking the left shoulder. I-10 westbound at Mesa, you got two stalled vehicles. The semi-rig that's blocking the right shoulder. The other's a truck blocking the left shoulder. Police are following up on an accident report at Gateway Boulevard northbound at Sean Haggerty. And an accident in the clearing stages, Pelicano Drive between Lee Trevino and George Dieter at Lionel Drive. Kerry Edwards, El Paso traffic.
This report is sponsored by Staples Stores. Staples has all the innovative tech and tools you need to take on the future of work, all at great prices. Right now, Apple AirPods Pro are only $199, a $50 savings. Offer ends 3/12 while supplies last, limit 2. Explore what's new at Staples, the working and learning store.
Have you thought about getting dental implants? Has someone told you that implants cost $3,000, $4,000, $5,000, $6,000 a tooth? Here's something much better to think about. Affordable dental implants from 1995implants.com. The El Paso Dental Office, where beautiful, top-quality, long-lasting dental implants are as low as $1,995 per tooth. That price includes the implant, abutment, and crown, which many other places charge extra for. At 1995implants.com, we also offer a free consultation, free standard x-rays, and convenient financing. 1995implants.com. You're going to love your new smile, and your friends and family will be telling you how great you look. Best of all, your dental implants are very affordable if you come to 1995implants.com. For more information, see our website, 1995implants.com. That's 1995implants.com. Se habla español.
Do you promise to love, honor, and cherish, forsaking all others?
I do.
I do.
And now, by the power vested in me, I now pronounce you roommates. Go forth.
That's not the vow you took. But if struggles with CPAP have you and your spouse sleeping in separate rooms, it might be time to look into Inspire. Inspire works inside the body with just the click of a remote. That's right, just a button. No mask, no hose, just sleep. Inspire. Sleep apnea innovation.
Talk to your doctor to see if Inspire is right for you. Review important safety information at inspiresleep.com.
iHeartRadio Earth knows small changes can make a big difference. Want to reduce your food waste? Embrace your freezer. From bread to meat and even cheese, most foods can be frozen and cooked later. Plus, a full freezer uses less electricity. Brought to you by iHeartRadio Earth and the National Environmental Education Foundation. To find more tips for smarter, sustainable living or to take action in your own community, go to iHeartRadio.com/earth.
Are you covered by Medicare and Medicaid? Well, El Paso Health Plus is the plan for you. As a local Medicare Advantage plan, we can offer our members more. Call us at 833-742-3125 or EPHmedicare.com. El Paso Health Plus.
The number one pick is in. Wendy's Breakfast, the official breakfast of March Madness. Choose your starting lineup, like the Breakfast Baconator or Honey Butter Chicken Biscuit, and enjoy oven-baked bacon, fresh cracked eggs, seasoned breakfast potatoes, and Simply OJ. Choose wisely, choose Wendy's.
News Radio 690 KTSM.
Live from the KTSM AM 690 studios, it's Talk El Paso with Andrew J. Polk. To be a part of the show, call 915-544-KTSM or follow on Facebook at facebook.com/Talk El Paso. Now here's your host, Andrew J. Polk.
Thank you all so very much for joining us here for Talk El Paso, airing live on News Radio 690 KTSM. I'm your host, Andrew J. Polk. Short time here in this segment, so if you're on the line there, stick around here for a minute because we'll definitely be taking more calls. If you're wanting to join in that way, the number to call is 915-544-5876, 544-KTSM. We got a lot to talk about here today, kind of a border focus overall, but there's so many more issues going on here, and our purpose is, as always, to discuss the things that affect us right here in the borderlands. So, cartel activity is not an unknown for this region, unfortunately, and the impacts that we see from it. So that's one of the things we're talking about here today, the surprising numbers being discussed when it comes to actual income being seen. We're getting more into that here, of course, but we got a lot of economic situations that we are, of course, dealing with. I mean, the gas one, I keep trying to find new ways to talk about it because, sure, you can look at the gas pumps and be unhappy about that for as long as you want, but actually drilling down into what it means, how we've gotten here, and what that's going to mean going forward is the more interesting aspect for me. Of course, we've got some potential within our region and what that's going to mean, but also a lot of designs on what that might mean on the back end, the revenue, the costs, the taxes being put on them, and, of course, the impact on the everyday person, you and me, is paramount in my mind, ever so slightly here. So some more comments coming in as well. Kay Green saying Border Patrol agents who work at the border in McAllen, Texas get shot at every day. Don't know if I've heard about them being shot at, but definitely being pelted is something I've definitely heard about. I mean, the cages that are being put on some of the vehicles, or have been in use on the vehicles, I should more accurately say, for years now, is certainly a factor here. But wouldn't be surprised if things are getting a little bit more dicey as more cartel activity is attempting to be happening. They get maybe a little bit more bold. It had been kind of a red line, as much as a bright red line could be when it comes to international crime, of not being active on this side of it. But, I mean, money talks, and, well, we'll get more into that here as we come out of this next break. So, again, you're tuned into Talk El Paso here on News Radio 690 KTSM. Coming up next hour, going to be discussing more of these issues, more of your comments, calls. So, again, if you want to get on the line right now, 915-544-5876, 544 KTSM. Back after this break and the top of the hour news. More Talk El Paso. Stay tuned. Get on the conversation. Don't go anywhere.
Traffic all day. News Radio 690.
Joe Battle Boulevard, southbound of Montana, a stalled vehicle is blocking the right shoulder. 375 loop northbound at Iron Medics, right shoulder is blocked by a stalled vehicle there. I-10 westbound at Mesa, 2 stalled vehicles there. One a semi blocking the right shoulder, a truck blocking the left shoulder. And a crash reported Yarborough Drive at Montana. Could take Lee Trevino or Edgemere as alternates. Carrie Edwards, El Paso traffic.
Hey, you! Ever wanted to learn a language like French or Spanish or even Norwegian, but thought it'd be too difficult or time-consuming? Then try Babbel. Quick 10-minute lessons.
Siesta.
Babbel. Games, podcasts, even live online classes with a real teacher. Hola, clase. In no time, chatting about real-life topics will feel, well, effortless. Learn a new language with ease. Go to Babbel.com to try for free. That's Babbel.com.
Hey, Mario Courtney Lopez here. We know life's moments are definitely better together.
And Smart Mouth mouthwash gives us the confidence to always be ready to make the most of these moments.
Whether in studio, on the red carpet, or around the house, having the confidence to get close is amazing.
Our lives are better together with Smart Mouth. Just 2 rinses a day means fresh breath for 24 hours.
Find it at your favorite drug, grocery, or supercenter store, or save 20% at smartmouth.com/radio.
Always just minutes away from the latest news around town and around the world.
You need to know what's going on.
News Radio 690 KTSM.
I adopted Bento in 2010 from a shelter. A lot of people know him as Keyboard Cat.
That's just one adoption story that started at a shelter. Visit theshelterpetproject.org to find a pet near you. Brought to you by Maddie's Fund, the Humane Society of the United States, and the Ad Council.
No word in the English language is less convincing than probably.
Are you sure we should get matching tattoos on our first date?
Sure. We'll probably stay together.
Probably? It's been 23 minutes since I ate. I can probably swim.
You should wait 30 minutes.
Okay, now tell me what to do. Cannonball! Cramp! Oh, I have a cramp.
I can probably hit the green from here.
Probably.
Can I get a mulligan?
Ready to go?
Hey, are you sure you're okay to drive?
Yeah, I'm pretty sober. Yeah, I'm probably okay. Probably okay isn't okay, especially when it comes to drinking and driving. If you're drinking, call a cab, a car, or a friend. Buzzed driving is drunk driving. A message brought to you by
News on the hour
Council.
and a half. Traffic and weather all day. News Radio 690 is KTSM AM El Paso, an iHeart radio station.
NBC News Radio, I'm Brian Shook. Vice President Harris is now in Poland.
This comes after the White House said there was a temporary breakdown in communications between Poland and the U.S. concerning sending fighter jets to Ukraine. Press Secretary John Kirby said Poland's offer presents a high risk with little reward.
We assess that adding aircraft to the Ukrainian inventory is not likely to significantly change the effectiveness of the Ukrainian Air Force relative to Russian capabilities.
Harris is set to meet with leaders in Warsaw on Thursday morning and meet with Ukrainian refugees during her trip. Wall Street's day is ending with stocks up amid falling oil prices. Commodity prices have been heavily impacted due to the Russian invasion, but have started to ease up in recent days. Experts warn trading will continue to be volatile. At the closing bell, the Dow gained 654 points to 33,286. Ukraine says about 1,300 civilians of Mariupol are dead after being under siege for nearly a week. The UN reported at least 500 civilian deaths in the country, but added the actual numbers are considerably higher. The officials called the deaths a result of the blockade genocide of the Russian Federation. Millions of jobs are still available for those who want one. Lisa Taylor explains.
A new report says there were more than 11.2 million vacancies in January. The number was released as part of the job openings and labor turnover survey. Meantime, the number of folks leaving their jobs dropped to 4.25 million. I'm Lisa Taylor.
Parents of a transgender Texas teen suing the state are enjoying a victory in court. An appeals court is siding with them over Republican Attorney General Ken Paxton, who's been trying to move forward with a child abuse investigation. He issued an opinion suggesting medical care like puberty blockers was abuse. A hearing is now set for Friday. You're listening to the latest from NBC News Radio. New York Long Islanders are donating body armor and guns for Ukraine. Lisa G. reports.
Some 450 pieces of body armor were donated by the Suffolk County Sheriff's Department to the Long Island, Ukraine Emergency Response Drive. In addition, Suffolk County Police donated more than 750 decommissioned bulletproof vests. Meantime, Nassau County Executive Bruce Blakeman is hoping to collect semi-automatic rifles and shotguns to aid people of Ukraine during the Russian invasion. He's working with federal authorities to get the guns overseas.
The Maryland man who made history 2 months ago when he received the first ever genetically modified pig's heart has passed away. The University of Maryland Medical Center says David Bennett died this week at the age of 57. He received the groundbreaking procedure in early January after he didn't qualify for a human heart transplant. Dr. Bartley Griffith, who performed the surgery, said Bennett proved to be a brave and noble patient. A bipartisan group of state lawmakers is pushing to legalize betting on horse races in South Carolina. Sarah Bartlett has the details.
The legislation was introduced this week in the State House. It would only allow for advanced deposit wagering, which is when people place bets on their phone and need to have money in their account beforehand. The company through which bettors place their bets would be vetted and licensed by the state. The state would get 10% of revenues from wagers and collect a licensing fee. Data from the Equine Industry Support Measures Study Committee shows the equine industry has a nearly $2 billion impact on the state, and South Carolina is losing out to other states that have legalized horse betting.
The Indianapolis Colts are trading quarterback Carson Wentz to the Washington Commanders. Multiple reports say Wentz will be heading to the Commanders for a package of draft picks that include 2 third-round picks. Washington is reportedly taking on Wentz's whole contract. Brian Shook, NBC News Radio.
This report is sponsored by Indeed.com. If cold candidate calls aren't turning into hot hiring leads, then you need Indeed, because Indeed's powerful hiring platform makes it easy to attract, screen, and interview candidates all from one place. Find your next great hire visiting Indeed.com/credit.
Join iHeartRadio all month as we celebrate the passion, power, and immeasurable impact women have made in the world. It's Women's History Month. Enjoy great stations powered exclusively by females, like Women's History Month Radio, playlists like Women of R&B and Women Who Rock, and personally curated playlists by some of the most influential women in music, like Shania Twain and Madonna, plus tons of featured podcasts like The History Chicks, Red Table Talk, and Stuff Mom Never Told You. Let iHeartRadio be your Women's History Month one-stop audio destination.
At Children's Cancer Research Fund, we believe a world without childhood cancer is possible, but it takes all of us. And whether it's developing a groundbreaking treatment or helping a girl realize her dream, everyone has a role in a child's cancer journey. Just ask researcher Brandon Moriarty about his latest breakthrough, a genetic biomarker treatment.
Children's Cancer Research Fund is a great organization. They provide funding to really dig deep into the research and make more progress. We were able to start a clinical trial that's led by Emily Greengard.
The hope is that these types of therapies are going to be more effective and a lot better tolerated, a lot more safe for the patients.
People ask me how I keep a smile on my face. It's easy when you have so many great people that take care of you and support you.
To find out how you can be a part of the child's cancer journey and a part of the cure, visit childrenscancer.org. A public service message from Children's Cancer Research Fund.
Why should you volunteer with Meals on Wheels?
I never thought that 5 minutes could make so much difference in the lives of two people, but it has.
Drop off a warm meal and get more than you expect. Volunteer at americaletsdolunch.org. Brought to you by Meals on Wheels America and the Ad Council.
News Radio 690 KTSM El Paso.
Live from the KTSM AM 690 studios, it's Talk El Paso with Andrew J. Polk. To be a part of the show, call 915-544-KTSM or follow on Facebook at facebook.com/Talk El Paso. Now here's your host, Andrew J. Polk.
Thank you all so very much for joining us here for Talk El Paso, airing live on News Radio 690 KTSM. I'm your host, Andrew J. Polk. Thanks for tuning in, however you may be doing so. Locked in for our second hour of the program here in the 5 o'clock hour. Do have those phone lines open here already if you're wanting to chime in that way. 915-544-5876, 915-544-KTSM if you prefer dialing that way. Got a couple calls here we'll get to in just a second there, because talking about the things that affect us here in the borderland and wherever they may be sourced from, increasingly internationally, it does feel like we still got a lot to get through and a lot of stuff that's, I think, the best way we're going to get through it, just personally, professionally as well, I guess you could say, is by discussing it. Because there's a whole lot of information out there, some of it reasonable, some of it just wild. Been delving a little bit more into that side of things lately. I think we're getting more of that conversation in as things have gotten even more unsettled globally, but we still got a lot of issues we got to deal with here in the borderland. And talking a lot specifically about border issues here today, again, probably doesn't come as a great surprise to any longtime listeners of this program or inhabitants of this region in general about the border issues. And what I mean by border issues are, immigration, security, trade, transit, travel, smuggling, illicit substances. All of that is kind of the microcosm, the snow globe that I pick up and shake whenever I say border issues, because it's hard to extract any singular point out of any of that without talking about the whole microcosm of issues that come with it. So again, the interesting figures being brought forth from that, representative from New York, Chris Jacobs, pointing out that the numbers that he has seen from his recent fact-finding mission down to the more central Texas or central border Texas area, Del Rio is what I'm trying to say here, area of his fact-finding mission on that, on the order of $24 million a week being made by cartels in that region. And of course, that is quite the chunk of change, and what they're doing with it is beyond concerning. Talk a lot about the issues on this side of things, of course, and what the issues we're seeing on the northern reaches of the border, but it cannot be ignored, of course, where it comes from here. But let's go back to those phone lines now. Again, if you're wanting to call in, the number to do so, 915-544-5876, 544-KTSM. Do have Jorge on the line with us right now. Jorge, thanks for joining us.
You're welcome, Andrew. I wonder about Chris with respect to his concerns about the border, as have others expressed concerns about the border. Aside from mentioning the fact that a border exists alongside us with Mexico, other than that, I didn't hear any differentiation with regard to any proposals that he might offer. For example, an educational grant would be on board for something like that, to educate the populace along the border as to what the difficulties are with respect to the border, unlike the easiness that once existed along the border with regard to life that no longer exists. Would he be open to something like that? I wonder myself.
So he did go a little bit further into, I just read a couple of selections out of his news release from earlier this week as the result of, again, his fact-finding mission, as he put it here, and again, talking about Chris Jacobs, the 27th District of New York. So he did put in, after laying out some of his concerns, very similar to what we heard from that the Twitter video that he posted there. Going on further to say, where do we go from here? Border Patrol needs resources immediately. We need to provide them with additional funds. We need to hire more agents to fully protect the border and process individuals. Right now, the majority of our Border Patrol workforce is being tied up behind a desk processing individuals. So similar types of points that have been made up both by local elected representatives, those that have come through. Alejandro Mayorkas not entirely off the same page there, I would have to say, but I think the way he put it more also, and then the kind of conjunction also with the State of the Union address, saying that there have been these priorities put forth, but nothing really come with it. We'll see. He says he'll be taking these recommendations, information back to Washington to build successful policies to protect our nation. So that's the part that I'm really looking forward to next out of all of this, both of this gentleman, what Mayorkas did, what the Biden administration has elaborated as policies and priorities for this is then, okay, let's see the policy. Let's see the proposal put forth. Let's see the bills drafted up and brought to the table, because that's when we're really going to need to do it. Otherwise, you're not wrong. It is just kind of so much talk in the meantime and a good drum to bang. But in the meantime, we're, of course, living it.
Yeah, because, sometimes all that's needed is a little prompt to get somebody to do right, and that's what's needed for a few more people to do right so they can address that issue effectively.
Yeah, well, hopefully people are taking more notice of this here. Again, the real interesting thing to me, none of this, again, I would be hard-pressed if anyone has really listened to this show before is surprised by any of these perspectives, any of these points here, but the amount of money being brought in, because most of the response is reasonably. We talk about this side of the border, what are we going to do about it? But it's impossible to ignore the criminal enterprises, of course, that come along with it here. So I do appreciate the point in the call. Thank you very much. A lot to talk about here in our area and a lot to get to here. Get to more of the calls in the line. Again, the number 915-544-5876, 544 KTSM. Do we have Marky on the line with us here right now? Marky, thanks for joining us.
Hey, Andrew. Great show as usual.
I appreciate it there. What's on your mind?
So what I'd like to do is I'd like to talk to your viewership about the $10,000 raises per tier in New Mexico, as I'm a teacher in southern New Mexico. So picture this. A teacher in Las Cruces, if your year from 0 to 5, you make $40,000. That is the starting pay. You can't level up to level 2 until after your 5th year. So during years 1 through 5 or 0 through 5, you have to do something called a dossier or whatever. And you have to track some students and show their progress, growth, regression, whatever. And it takes about a year for the data collection. So if you're a year 1 or 2 or 3 year teacher right now, you're getting $40,000. So next year you'll be getting $50,000. So yeah, that is a $10,000 raise. Now I'm a level 2 teacher, and I've been a level 2 since 2010. So I've gotten yearly step raises bit by bit. So I'm a few thousand from 60. So next year I go to 60. So there's going to be about a $2,700 raise for me. Now, if you're level 3, you have to have another master's, and you have to do another dossier, and you're making about 62, 62.5. So you're going to get to 70. So that is a lucrative raise. That's $7,500 for most of the teachers that I've spoken to in the union. So level 2 teachers are getting the least amount of a raise. So it sounds great on paper. And you talk to people, and I've seen it on different websites on Facebook, and teachers in El Paso saying, yeah, I can go to New Mexico and make $60,000. Well, no, you can't, because you're going to go back and you're going to start at 50 for the first 5 years as a level 1. You cannot come in as a level 2 or level 3 unless you're a retiree, which is great for retirees with 15 years or more from Texas usually. They'll come in at 70 plus their years of experience. But by no means are all 3 levels going to get a $10,000 raise. I'm not going to go from 57.5 to 67.5. So I wanted people to be aware that it's not as well. I'm not going to say great. I could care less. I'm making twice as much as I made back in 2000 when Jerome Tillman and I went to UTEP when we started teaching. When I was making 28.5 my first year in El Paso. So yeah, I've gotten 100% raise over the last 18, 19 years, but I'm not going to complain about it, because an educated child from pre-K to diploma, that is a priceless thing that you've done, that the system has done, that the taxpayers have paid for, because an educated citizen that has gotten a diploma is a priceless thing to have in the society, and you know that. Like an educated society is a polite society, and Jerome Tillman, my buddy, who was still around, he completely agreed. And I remember, by year 5, at year 6, I was talking to Mr. Tillman, and we were comparing salaries, and he's like, wow, you finally make as much as me. I said, yeah, but it took 5 years. And when I started, I was making, I think, 38. And so, not bad. And then I got it bumped to 48. But yes, for a level 1 brand new teacher at a UTEP or NMSU, this is a great thing to do. The insurance is great. Yeah, we get summers off, but I'm telling you, 3 weeks of our summer is consumed by professional development and all those kind of things. So I wanted your viewership to understand how the system works. Now, they can go look into it in the New Mexico PED, New Mexico PED, and really see it if they really are interested. But that's how it works. So level 2 teachers, we're not complaining. We love the job, and I wouldn't leave, but making 60 is a really big highlight of my life, and I can't wait to get my first check at the end of August.
Interesting.
To make sure this is a reality. And they say we're getting a 7% raise on that, so I'm not going to complain at all. There's
Fair enough.
American Rescue Plan funds. They're going to the educators who really deserve the money. Of course, firefighters and cops, first responders, they deserve that money too, because we're out there doing the hard work.
Let me ask you this then, because, of course, all of this is, devil in the details. I appreciate you laying it out here. But, of course, all this focused on dealing with the shortages from the people that you've talked to then. Do you think that this will, in any term, short term or not, deal with the perceived shortages and maybe even actually address it? Or is there going to be more need to be done?
More retirees, that are thinking, well, I can take my EPISD or EPCC retirement from TRS and go make a bunch more money. Yeah, that's pretty lucrative. I'm hoping that they get more young teachers out of NMSU and UTEP, but the numbers are pretty low. There's not many people going into teacher education programs, but we have alleviated the issue. We've gotten a lot of young soldiers coming in to substitute that have been background checked and have gotten some kind of certification based on the hours they have, and they've been very reliable. And I tell you what, the kids, they got their marching orders when they see a soldier in their BDUs. And I was wrong when I called you in and said they have to wear polos and stuff. No, these guys are battle dressed. So it's nice to have that. You feel a little more safe and secure, and you know that you have someone who's got discipline already, so they can instill discipline in the young men and women. And teaching in a middle school is very hard. And I think when they see a soldier, female or male, they seem to walk a more fine line. I'm hoping to attract more young teachers because there's a lot of us that are in our early 50s, late 40s that are looking for, getting that 75 number. That's a combination of your age and your service years. And for us that teach up there, we're going to come down to Texas and double dip. We have that luxury to do that here. And most of us are going to do it. I know teachers are making well over $100,000 that are in their early 50s that have come from El Paso up to New Mexico, and we're seeing the pain right now with the gas going all the way to Las Cruces and such. But
that's true.
The pay, the insurance, I'm not going to complain about it.
Interesting.
I love what I do, and the kids deserve someone who actually. The day that I don't care, I'm done.
Well, I appreciate the work you do there because, having an educated populace, literally cornerstone of democracy, as some of our founders discussed there. So appreciate the perspective there. Very interesting, I am sure. This is actually something been coming up in the Texas gubernatorial race now a little bit more. I might have to get into that into future shows here because there's a lot more to be said there. So thank you for the point in the call. Do appreciate it. We are overdue for that next break right now. Coming out of the break, we'll get more into this and get to more of those calls on the line here. If you're wanting to call in, the number to do so, 915-544-5876, 544 KTSM. Back after this break with more Talk El Paso here on News Radio 690 KTSM.
Traffic all day. News Radio 690.
Heads up for an injury accident, Gateway Boulevard, westbound at Geronimo. Traffic slowing with police and medical crew on the scene there. Joe Battle Boulevard, southbound at Montana Avenue. A stalled vehicle blocking the right shoulder. Loop 375, northbound at Iron Medics, a stalled vehicle blocking the right shoulder there. And a crash reported Mesa Street, just east of Wrestler at Pitt. Traffic is stopped there. Kerry Edwards, El Paso Traffic.
This report is sponsored by Discover. If you're a valued customer, you deserve a simple gesture of appreciation from your credit card company. And that's why Discover matches all of the cash back you've earned at the end of your first year. Discover. Exceptionally common sense. Learn more at discover.com/match. Limitations apply.
Inventing Anna, the official podcast, delves deeper into the story behind the Netflix series about Anna Sorokin, the fake heiress who stole the hearts and money of New York social elite, featuring conversations with the actual people who played a part in this iconic story, and series creator Shonda Rhimes.
My theory of Anna, which is, it is that thing that Vivian says, I will make you famous. The world will know who you are.
Listen to Inventing Anna, the official podcast on the iHeartRadio app or wherever you get your podcasts.
Mass Mutual knows that your finances can be an uncomfortable conversation.
Mark, we should really talk about our money.
Yep, we really should.
Like, we never talk about our savings.
No, we never talk about that. Or our assets.
Or our debt.
Yeah, we really should talk about our debt.
We need one of those financial plans.
One of those will make a difference.
We should talk about it.
We really should.
Talk to us about financial wellness today. Feel comfortable about tomorrow. Mass Mutual. Live Mutual.
Hey, you. Ever wanted to learn a language like French or Spanish or even Norwegian but thought it'd be too difficult or time-consuming? Then try Babbel. Quick 10-minute lessons.
Siesta.
Babbel. Games, podcasts, even live online classes with a real teacher. Hola, clase. In no time, chatting about real-life topics will feel, well, effortless. Learn a new language with ease. Go to Babbel.com to try for free. That's Babbel.com.
Liberty Mutual Insurance Company presents
And Doug. Check it out, Limu, a roadside carnival.
Step right up, folks. Test your strength. Come see the fire-breathing baby.
Let's fan out and tell people that Liberty Mutual customizes your car insurance so you only pay for what you need.
Look! An emo wearing sunglasses!
Limu, you're famous. Only pay for what you need.
Liberty, 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 liberty.
Text and work. Text and pretend to work. Text and act surprised when someone calls you out for not working.
Who, me?
Text and whatever, just don't text and drive. Visit StopTextsStopWrecks.org. A message from NHTSA and the Ad Council.
El Paso's News Radio, 690 KTSM.
Live from the KTSM AM 690 studios, it's Talk El Paso with Andrew J. Polk. To be a part of the show, call 915-544-KTSM or follow on Facebook at facebook.com/Talk El Paso. Now here's your host, Andrew J. Polk.
Thank you all so very much for joining us here for Talk El Paso, airing live on News Radio 690 KTSM. I'm your host, Andrew J. Polk. Thank you for tuning in, however you may be doing so. A lot of ways to interact with the show. Two of those phone lines open right now, full up at the moment, but we want to squeeze in there a little bit later. The number to call is 915-544-5876, 544-KTSM. Sometimes we ask, why do we take calls? Why do we do this? The entire point is to have a discussion about the things that affect us here in the borderland. Borderland being, everywhere within our listening area, essentially. Because the whole, from on high and, just deal with the details on your own and don't question it, never really worked out for me. And debating it, having the discussion, even if we get some wildly different viewpoints going on here, I thrive on that personally, even if there might be some that disagree with me. You're more than welcome to. You can give us a call, 915-544-5876, 544-KTSM. That number. A lot of comments going on here as well. RJ and Kathy Kodry commiserating about gas prices here. Kathy saying $4.69 at in her neck of the woods here today, and RJ saying hope doesn't get over $6 or more. I'm not going to hold my breath. I'm not even that necessarily pessimistic, but I mean, there's just clearly more factors outside of immediate control. And I think there's a couple of questions to be asked about how prices are being set, even if there is definitely work that needs to be done by the administration on how they are, dealing with it. Because confidence and investor confidence in it can't be the total basis for how well we're able to actually get around and do anything here. Glenn Stewart on that education comment saying that the key, the last sentence is educated and not indoctrinated. So I'm going to say that you should be involved in your child's education or the young person that is in your life, whatever, because it kind of goes back to the whole shopping cart theory thing that we talk about a decent amount. The idea of, are you ready for self-governance? Because there are, unfortunately, whether you like it or not, unfortunately, the reality in my mind is a whole lot of people willing to say out there that, well, the government didn't say it's good or bad, therefore I will agree with that. And it affects more than you think. This is not even a political ideology kind of thing. Just a lot of people out there willing to say that, well, I guess I don't question this particular thing. I definitely got a benefit of my public education going through, gifted and talented classes, doing the humanities classes, getting essentially a comparative religion education that I am sure would be stirring up more than a couple of fights within there. Now, I am definitely not going to advocate you going and picking a fight with your elected official on the school board, but you should be inculcating your own beliefs and family values into your children, regardless of what is being taught in school. And I feel like that's a conversation a whole lot of people aren't totally willing to have. Anyway, getting more of the calls on the line here. Again, the number to call, 915-544-5876, 544-KTSM. Do have Jerry on the Northwest here on the line with us right now. Jerry, thanks for joining us.
Thank you, Andrew, for taking my call. It's kind of sad that we're finding out this information about the border from a representative that's over 3,000 miles away. It seems like our own representatives should be able to tell some of us the truth about things going on. And with that, I'm going to bring up something that people won't believe, but it's true. What if I asked you that 80% of the people that died during COVID could have lived?
I mean,
what would you say to that?
I mean, preventable deaths was the whole purpose and the idea. Okay. If you remember the first couple of weeks when it was the whole, we do it right, it'll feel like we didn't do anything at all, and that went right out the window. Yeah.
Okay, well, I'm going to give you another website to look at if you want to.
All right.
It's called thehighwire.com. And what you're looking for is who killed ivermectin. And the same lady that's reporting this, she is a doctor, a scientist. Doctors are scientists that worked in the London Institute over there of medical research. She did research for the WHO, the World Health Organization. And in December 2020, she reported that ivermectin could stop COVID. But that was basically, it was kept quiet because of money. The two portions you're going to look at is who killed ivermectin, and former WHO consultant exposes the takedown of ivermectin. Again, that's highwire.com.
Okay, I will have to take a look at that there. Absolutely. I mean, so the thing about science is that, the phrase that I really dislike is trust the science, because it kind of belies the entire point of the scientific method, which is verification, repeatability of the results here. And now I am obviously not qualified, trained, able to do the same kind of things that someone truly competent within any given field is, not an epidemiologist, not a virologist, none of these things. But being able to understand the results here is also kind of an important point. I mean, we think about it as some of the best science educators.
This lady gets paid to do that. She's the one that one of the ones that go out and say, okay, well, this medicine helps here, this medicine helps there. She was paid by the WHO as a consultant to do that, to research ivermectin. And it's not just the one study. If you listen to it, the individual she's talking to, I believe she said 24 different studies.
So, I mean, there were plenty of studies going on. I mean, including at least one locally based one that I'm aware of that I probably should follow up on and see if there have been any published results out of that yet about the effectiveness of it here. Because yes, you should do self-diagnosing, self-dosing of any material and substances, dicey at best. And particularly if you were going to find yourself doing that, taking the horse dose was a definitely bad idea. There are reasonable ways things can be used. I mean, absolutely.
Ivermectin comes in certain doses for humans too. It's not just an animal.
Exactly. And then that was the whole joke about don't take the one with the horse on it. And technically accurate, yes, don't take the horse dose, because that's way, way, way too much for a human, even for the previously prescribed uses. Yes, absolutely.
Well, thank you, Andrew. I appreciate you letting me speak.
Absolutely. I mean, these are important things to talk about here, and because there's more information out there. I mean, if we were all just solely clinically trial based with everything we do, I mean, the good and bad about business would be out of whack here locally as it is. I mean, being confident in your treatment is important, and I do fault a lot of national leadership with how they even went about describing these situations as this whole top down, do it and like it kind of thing. And that has backfired massively. So I should hope in the long term that some of the lessons learned out of this will be that, hey, maybe not doing a do as I say, not as I do, and shut up and take it kind of system, not good. Just saying. That's just me. But, yeah. Kathy Cordray, just there's good advice. Keep your immune system and digestive tract healthy. Help fight off the virus here. Being healthy and the lack of a focus on that going forward is one of the more baffling aspects of it here. So, yeah, lot to be brought up there. We are due for that next break right now. We're getting into the weeds with a bunch of issues, but we will get to a couple more calls here, absolutely. So that number to call if you're wanting to do so is 915-544-5876, 544 KTSM. Back after this break with more Talk El Paso here on News Radio 690 KTSM.
Paso's News Radio 690 KTSM.
Hello, I'm Erica Castillo with this KFOX 14 News Update. The El Paso Independent School District has lifted its face mask provision. Starting today, wearing a face mask will be on a voluntary basis for students and employees in good health. The notice was sent out to parents today by the Superintendent Diana Saavedra stated the district will return to face-to-face school district business, including professional development, community meetings, and COVID-19 community rating for El Paso to medium or yellow. EPISD is currently in intersession and will be on spring break until Monday, March 14th. And the KFOX 14 Severe Weather Team is tracking several systems that will move through the region, keeping us breezy to windy through Friday. Winds out of the west-southwest could be as high as 35 miles per hour. Similar conditions are expected tomorrow with wind gusts slightly higher. Daytime highs will settle in the upper 60s and low 70s. I'm Erica Castillo with a KFOX 14 News Update.
News Radio 690. Traffic all day.
Heads up for an injury accident, Gateway Boulevard, westbound at Geronimo. Traffic slowing with police and medical crew on the scene there. Joe Battle Boulevard, southbound at Montana Avenue. A stalled vehicle blocking the right shoulder. Loop 375, northbound at Iron Medics, a stalled vehicle blocking the right shoulder there. And a crash reported Mesa Street, just east of Wrestler at Pitt. Traffic is stopped there. Carrie Edwards, El Paso traffic.
After a cool start to the week, temperatures will gradually warm over the next couple of days, with winds turning a bit gusty ahead of our next storm system. Tonight, expect another cold night with a mostly clear sky and temperatures in the middle to upper 30s. Coming up tonight, we'll talk about stronger winds for Thursday, plus when temperatures will turn much colder. From the KFOX 14 Severe Weather Center, I'm meteorologist Kira Miner.
This report is sponsored by Rocket Mortgage. When you apply for a home loan, there are different options depending on your situation and needs. With Rocket Mortgage, you can see how different down payments, monthly payments, and closing costs will impact your loan and your budget. When you need a lender who works for you, Rocket can.
What's done more to improve overall health and wellness? Modern medicine or personal hygiene? Actually, it's both. But considering that bathing went mainstream in the 1800s and brushing your teeth in the 1900s, isn't it time for something new, like cleaning your nose? After all, your nose is the body's air filter for trapping dirt and germs, the first line of defense against allergens, bacteria, and viruses from getting into your lungs. But how do you clean your nose? With Navage. Navage isn't medicine, it's more like plumbing. Navage uses powered suction to pull saline in one nostril to the very back of the nose where germs can get trapped and multiply, and then out the other nostril, flushing out mucus and microbes so you can breathe better, sleep deeper, snore less, and stay healthier. Join over 2 million others and find out for yourself how refreshing and easy to use Navage is. At Navage.com, Walgreens, CVS, Rite Aid, Bed Bath, and Target. Navage. Clean nose, healthy life.
I love when my friends stop by, but to help keep my friends and my family safe, I always spray Lysol in my home before guests arrive and again after they leave. Nothing kills more viruses on more surfaces than Lysol disinfectant spray. Lysol, what it takes to protect. Use as directed.
Don't drive much. Don't pay much with Paper Mile Insurance from Allstate. Life is good when you're in the driver's seat. At Allstate, better protection costs a whole lot less. Visit allstate.com or call an agent for a quote today. This report is sponsored by Allstate.
Teens in foster care will love you, even if you don't know the lingo.
Dad bod, noun.
The result of the occasional donut, always washed down with confidence.
Brought to you by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services, Adopt U.S. Kids, and the Ad Council. Visit adoptuskids.org.
News Radio 690 KTSM.
Live from the KTSM AM 690 studios, it's Talk El Paso with Andrew J. Polk. To be a part of the show, call 915-544-KTSM or follow on Facebook at facebook.com/Talk El Paso. Now here's your host, Andrew J. Polk.
Thank you all so very much for joining us here for Talk El Paso, airing live on News Radio 690 KTSM. I'm your host, Andrew J. Polk. Thank you for tuning in however you may be doing so. A lot of ways to interact with the show, and a lot of topics we're still going into here. Don't worry, we do this every Monday through Friday, 4 to 6 p.m. to discuss the issues surrounding us here, even as we're looking at... Yeah, I use weird too much. I will really admit this, but we've got, improving economic development happening in our area. A lot more people willing to go out, businesses booming, but of course that being faced at the same time with rising energy costs. If there are going to be downturns in expectations when it comes to overall economic development here. I mean, there's a lot to get into here, and we'll keep talking about it as we do here. So that's why I use the phrase weird, because good, bad doesn't quite cut it. Things are going to keep progressing, but in ways that are probably going to surprise. Just simple put. Let's get to a few more calls on the line here. Again, the number to call, 915-544-5876, 544-KTSM. Do we have Mike over in Central on the line with us here right now? Mike, thanks for joining us.
Yeah, I got something. I got to talk something that bothers me about people coming from out of town, retiring here or living here. Paso's way over 50%. I think we're like 80%.
Yep.
And some people come with the attitude that we all come from Mexico, but we don't. There's some.
Oh, yeah.
I'm an American citizen, and one thing for sure is I just want to make them aware that I've talked to Border Patrol officers and CBP about making false reports. That is a felony. Like if they see something about an Hispanic and report it, well, there's an illegal immigrant that doing this bad. You better. Just telling them they better make sure what they're saying is right, because it is a felony to make a false report to any law enforcement official. That is a felony, and that carries a lot of weight. Because I've talked to Border Patrol and CBP, and they gotten reports like that, and the person that makes the false report to them pays the consequences. It's a jail. They get a jail time for it.
Yeah,
and that's what. I hope they're aware that there is a law against false reporting. Especially to CBP and Border Patrol, FBI, DEA. They don't like false reports. That's all I have to comment at this time. Okay, have a good day.
No, I appreciate it. Thank you for the point in the call there. Yeah, we've all seen, probably, if you spend any time on the internet, plenty of the just bulk term Karen videos of people essentially trying to bring law enforcement into situations where they're just not getting their way. And unfortunately, yeah, it can absolutely involve federal authorities here. I can't imagine something more unconscionable than trying to say, well, I don't like what you're doing, therefore I'm going to tie up the federal resources of a major agency in our area to do so. Get the hell out. Get a life, seriously, if that's the kind of mentality that you've got out there. I mean, there are real serious issues that we talk about daily that need to be dealt with. And if it's, the contractor isn't doing what I like, or the person, blowing the, doing the lawn work out there, that kind of a thing, I feel like that's the majority of videos I've seen anyway. Get a life, deal with your stuff, and don't make it someone else's problem. Just plain and simple. Yeah, absolutely agree with you on that point there. All right, more calls on the line, 915-544-5876, 544-KTSM. Do we have Raul in the Northeast on the line with us here right now? Raul, thanks for joining us.
Hey, Andrew, about gasoline prices. The energy industry is not a totally free market, because there are many petrol states like Russia, Saudi Arabia, OPEC, Venezuela, that play with the prices and the supply of that oil based on their income needs and their assessments of the geopolitical situation. Now recall the Deepwater Horizon oil spill, also called the Gulf of Mexico oil spill, that took place back in 2010, and it was at the time the largest marine oil spill in history. And that Deepwater Horizon rig was owned and operated by an offshore oil drilling company known as Transocean. So they were hired. They were hired by the owners of the lease, which was British Petroleum, BP. As a matter of fact, by the way, BP's profit soared to an 8-year high of $13 billion this year. So international oil companies bid for leases on government-owned property. Now, the way I see it, taxpayers should go into that business where the energy companies, with a portion of the profit, the taxes that they pay on their profits, on these leases that are on government land. And again, oil industry profits are at all-time highs this year. Shell raked in $19.3 billion, Chevron 50, Exxon 23 billion. So just like I suggested that the city of El Paso should be buying into El Paso Electric and the gas company monopolies in El Paso with a portion of their periodic rate increases, it'd be a good idea. J.P. Morgan earns about 8 or 9% on their money on the monopoly. That's a great return for a monopoly. And I know this will probably never happen, like you said, Andrew, because the industry owns enough politicians to keep it from ever happening. But taxpayers should go into business with a portion of these industries' taxes so that we can start making money with our money. Instead of just paying taxes, get into it. Buy in and get representatives from all the stakeholders in the community on the board of directors. That's the important. That's where the real power is, board of directors of these giant corporations, And then we would be privy to that information and participate in the decision making. So we should use our taxes to make money. And we should have something like a DARPA to bring down the cost of living. See, the thing is that sadly, waste makes money and creates jobs. So there is no incentive for efficiency, effectiveness, because waste makes money, and it's ended up poisoning our planet for profits.
I mean, the amount of money that is made by people out there by being able to say that, well, we found a certain way and we will then ensconce it in law here. So I don't see it being totally reasonable for the idea of, in any local capacity or even really maybe even nationwide, there to be that idea that there is literally an example out there of public investment in otherwise private companies. You may have heard previously out there that Alaska has the dividend that they pay to their citizens on the order of some thousands of dollars a year. You can't move just to Alaska and get it. There are residency requirements, etc. But it's more on the order of what could be more commonly called as a sovereign wealth fund. Because some people just say, well, it's the revenue from the oil and gas industries, but it's much more complicated than that. It's frankly, and this is going to sound weird to say, closer to the idea of a universal basic income than anything else I've ever actually seen implemented, because it's actually run by the Alaska Permanent Fund Corporation, created by the Alaskan legislature in order to manage essentially an endowment for the people. Unique in concept here, but it is because they then do use revenues out of that to then make investments that then support and then give the dividends to the average person up there in Alaska, because living in Alaska is incredibly expensive, and it works out for them here. So whether that could be implemented anywhere else in any reasonable way is debatable at best, but the idea of there actually being public return from it beyond just the goods and services available is something that there is on the books out there, and one that I find interesting to look at from time to time, even if it's not going to be reasonable in short term. But stranger things have happened here. And one thing that does keep coming back to me is the massive subsidies that are given to the oil and gas industry, not even just in this country, but globally. Quick fact I was able to find here from the International Monetary Fund that in 2020, $5.9 trillion in subsidies to coal, oil, and natural gas around the world here. So it's clearly something that is being invested in. If you want to have these services available, you got to prime the pump, no pun intended. But it is absolutely something that could be further looked at in how we manage it going forward. Again, reality versus ideology, I think, is the real debate that we're seeing come up on here now. But thank you for the point in the call. Do appreciate it here. I think we'll squeeze in one more quick one before we hit that next break. Again, the number to call if you want to squeeze in, 915-544-5876, 544-KTSM. We do have Ben on the east side here with us right now. Ben, thanks for joining us.
Yeah, I wanted to expand on one of the callers that said about the article about the death of ivermectin.
Mm-hmm.
Essentially, it was two people, Tess Laurie, who was a consultant for the WHO, and also a guy named Andrew Hill. They both were looking into finding out how effective it was. They both found out it was very effective. All the data they looked at and everything else. Tess Lori actually called Boris, or left a video for Boris Johnson, Prime Minister of England, said that she thought that this was a miracle drug that would probably save millions of lives. And at the last moment, when they were about to get, they did a conference and with the NIH and everything. Mm-hmm. Everybody was on board for it. Except all of a sudden, Andrew Hill at the last moment withdrew his support, said that they hadn't done enough research on it, that it wasn't, he couldn't say that it was very effective, so he withdrew his support. Turned out that Andrew Hill had just received a $40 million endowment given to his college at Liverpool for a medical wing. And so he withdrew his strong support because of the $40 million. And the $40 million was given by a group called Unitaid. Unitaid is a NGO, a charity group. With guess who has which person is very strongly tied to Unitaid?
I'm sure you know.
Bill Gates. Mm. Okay, so for $40 million, a medication that was shown to show absolute wonderful efficacy, 80% effect, 80 to 85% effectiveness of keeping people from dying and everything else. And for $40 million, it was all washed away and made it to where you couldn't get ivermectin in the United States of America, except unless you found different areas, telemedicine, which they are trying to shut down now. That is what we call genocide.
Okay, definitely not going to go that far with that kind of a statement on here on my part. Again, I do find that there would be reasonable questions asked about how this went about. I know that Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation and some of these individuals are boogeymen when it comes to this, but the real question in my mind that needs to be asked is, how do these processes go about, and then what is needing to be done to look at them for the future here? Because yeah, I mean, I've seen the results of some of the early clinical studies that have come out about the efficacy of ivermectin, nothing on the order of it is bad for you, but more on the order of minimal use or most effective when used in specific ways, which is the kind of thing you expect to see out of clinical studies and along those lines here. But okay, the real question and the real, I think, action that needs to come out of this, I mean, as we are looking at, us on the downturn of the current wave, the in between the Greek letters, as one of my friends put it recently, is how we are even dealing with this information in the public sphere. Because, yeah, there are obviously competing public-private investment interests that come along with this, and I think there's a reckoning that does need to happen when it comes to how we even formulate this going forward. Again, getting into that whole reality versus ideology argument that I think we need to get into further here. So thank you for the point in the call. Due for that last break of the hour here. Coming out of that, wrap up the show, talk about our future shows, and squeeze in one more if we can here. So stay tuned. More Talk El Paso here after this break here on News Radio 690 KTSM.
Traffic all day. News Radio 690.
Watch for a stalled vehicle, I-10 westbound at the Airway. It's blocking the right shoulder. Joe Battle Boulevard, southbound at Edgemere. A stalled vehicle blocking the right shoulder there. Gateway north at Trowbridge. Road work there is done for the day. All lanes are back open. Cotton Street at Murchison Drive, north of the 10. An injury accident there. And Mesa Street, southbound, east of Wrestler at Pitt. Police are working an accident there. Carrie Edwards, El Paso traffic.
This report is sponsored by Dell Technologies.
Sometimes it feels like your business is going 100 miles an hour, barely keeping up. Dell Technologies advisors have the Windows PCs and tech you need to help you get past whatever's in front of you. Call an advisor today at 877-ASK-DELL. A start to a simpler experience with Windows 11 Pro.
Inventing Anna, the official podcast, delves deeper into the story behind the Netflix series about Anna Sorokin, the fake heiress who stole the hearts and money of New York social elite, featuring conversations with the actual people who played a part in this iconic story, and series creator Shonda Rhimes.
My theory of Anna, which is, it is that thing that Vivian says, I will make you famous. The world will know who you are.
Listen to Inventing Anna, the official podcast on the iHeartRadio app or wherever you get your podcasts.
Anyone can get long COVID, even Caitlin, age 20.
I got COVID in November 2020. In January, I started having long-term problems. I was a varsity soccer player in high school, and now I get winded just from walking. I can't remember things. It's just unbearable.
Getting vaccinated against COVID-19 is the best way to prevent long COVID. Find vaccines near you at vaccines.gov. Paid for by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services.
Hey, you! Ever wanted to learn a language like French or Spanish or even Norwegian, but thought it'd be too difficult or time-consuming? Then try Babbel. Quick 10-minute lessons.
Siesta.
Babbel. Games, podcasts, even live online classes with a real teacher. Hola, clase. In no time, chatting about real-life topics will feel, well, effortless. Learn a new language with ease. Go to Babbel.com to try for free. That's Babbel.com.
Liberty Mutual Insurance Company presents and Doug.
Check it out, Limu, a roadside carnival.
Step right up, folks. Test your strength. Come see the fire-breathing baby.
Let's fan out and tell people that Liberty Mutual customizes your car insurance, so you only pay for what you need.
Look! An emu wearing sunglasses!
Limu, you're famous. Only pay for what you need.
Liberty, 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 liberty.
Freedom of speech lives here.
To me, freedom of speech is being able to say anything you want.
El Paso's News Radio 690 KTSM. News Radio 690 KTSM El Paso.
Live from the KTSM AM 690 studios, it's Talk El Paso with Andrew J. Polk. To be a part of the show, call 915-544-KTSM or follow on Facebook at facebook.com/Talk El Paso. Now here's your host, Andrew J. Polk.
Thank you all so very much for joining us here for Talk El Paso, airing live on News Radio 690 KTSM, and your host, Andrew J. Polk, rounding the bend on the last bit of this last part of our show here. But a lot of the issues that we've been discussing here come down to, I guess, decently simply, you might put, as what comes down to the difference between ideology and reality, something I've been talking about for a minute here. And, of course, we do have those pound 250 calls that can come in that way if you're wanting to leave us a message after the show or in between the next show. The way you can do that is by calling pound 250 on your phone, saying the keyword Talk El Paso, and then you can leave your own message, much like this.
Okay, this is Messiah Frankie. So, forget centrism, too much kumbaya. But let's try, we got to get back to reality, your words. Now, how do you propose to do that, Andrew, or anybody else out there? You know, when you got the majority of the public out here in an unrealistic mindset, they believe the earth is flat, or that the sun revolves around the earth, or that the earth is only 6,000 or 10,000 years old and we coexisted with dinosaurs. Now, how do you expect reality to come to the fore, Andrew, if you've got this kind of idiocy out there? It's not going to happen. I don't know what I do know what the answer is, but I'm going to see if you know how you can get out from under these nut jobs that believe these off-the-wall 2 + 2 = 5 stupidity nonsense. Now, here you got these whack jobs that attacked the Capitol on January the 6th, and you got people out there saying, unrealistically, that this is legitimate political discourse. Or the one I really like is the one where they get out there and they say, hey, we were just eager beaver tourists. Come on, Andrew. Until you get through that kind of idiocy, you're not going anywhere with the realm of reality that you're so wanting to have. I mean, really, that's for real, unbelievable.
Okay, so again, if you want to leave your own message, pound 250, keyword Talk El Paso. You'll be asked to say it and just say Talk El Paso. You'll leave your own message. You'll hear me talking about it briefly there. But okay, let's talk about reality versus ideology here a bit, because again, my contention is that we have had a whole lot of ideology at the forefront in national politics and all the way on down to local for quite a while now. It's a little bit less easy to get that in at the local level because you've got realities that you're facing, budgets, constraints, crime, those kind of things that have to be dealt with. But nationally think, well, if we apply this idea to it, it'll solve all of it. And it's been in such a way that we haven't really had to deal as much with the reality of the actions for decades now, at least within my lifetime, probably in others. I mean, you get to a real conflict like World War II when if you are not doing the policies that allow for protection to continue, you're going to see serious, battlefield issues essentially happen. And I think that we were very far away from this, literally waging two simultaneous wars, Iraq and Afghanistan, with you'd be hard-pressed outside of this members and family members of service members to know the actual and see the actual impacts of it. So it's kind of a self-correcting problem that even as you get too high in the sky with these concepts, the ideals, and I even include in things like this, the whole, Great Reset idea, like, sure, it is probably someone believes in it very fervently and would want to implement it. But when you start getting down to the reality of it and how it actually works on the ground, that if they're not actually, people aren't buying it, it's not going to work out. And that's the kind of situation we're finding ourselves in, I think, more and more globally in this increasing decade of instability, of great uncertainty, again, is a phrase that I really like it, because if things aren't working, you can't just say, well, maybe we're just not applying my ideals well enough here. It's going to become, I think, people getting fed up with it. And they're going to say, no, this isn't working, and we're going to kick the bums out and going to move on with what does work. So reality is a great litmus test, is the way to put it here. There have always been people out there that have some seriously off-the-wall ideas, concepts, 2 + 2 = 5. But again, if you want to go back to the kind of thing you're referencing there, 1984, if you're not actually able to then bring that to reality, I mean, there's the whole double think, double speak concept that goes along with it, that people aren't there for yet either. I mean, the technocrats and the people in wannabe positions of power may still trying to be debating and arguing that, no, it totally works that way. But for the average person, you say that and you look at it and you think that, okay, well, I'm going to try to build something that relies on these concepts, and it doesn't work. So sure, there are always going to be people out there, deluded, people out there that are unsure of what reality is, and it's going to come smack them in the face before too long. So simply put, I think the solution is, and with no small amount of consideration for how we do this, discussion about the things that are important, talking about it, making sure that we understand what the needs are of this community and what the things that we were wanting to focus on is going to be, well, part of how we get through this overall. Ion Grimm asking what I always bring Frankie's comments on at the end of the show. This is the point in the show when we do play those. If you're leaving us a message like that, we bring them up here. It's nothing's guaranteed on this show, but it's your foot in the door kind of moment here. So that's why we do it at this point here. So if you want to leave your own message, pound 250, this is the point in the show when we do those as well. So that's simple put there. And we'll get to more of those here tomorrow. Coming up on the show, going to be talking more about the issues affecting us in the borderland, of course, but also going to be talking about some of those elections. Rubber hitting the road moment kind of thing. Specifically, we're going to be having on Guadalupe Hinea talking about her candidacy to be on the ballot for the county judgeship. So we'll talk more about that. So in the meantime, stay safe out there. Look twice for motorcycles on down the road, and have a great evening. We'll see you all tomorrow.
Traffic all day. News Radio 690.
I-10 westbound at Airway, watch for a disabled vehicle blocking the right shoulder. A stalled vehicle on Joe Battle Boulevard, southbound at Edgemere. That is blocking the right shoulder there. Accident reported Montana Avenue at Copia Street. Medical crew showing up for an injury accident. Donovan Drive at Country Club. Thorne or Montoya Drive can be your alternate. Kerry Edwards, El Paso traffic.
Hey, Mario Courtney Lopez here. We know life's moments are definitely better together.
And Smart Mouth mouthwash gives us the confidence to always be ready to make the most of these moments.
Whether in studio, on the red carpet, or around the house, having the confidence to get close is amazing.
Our lives are better together with Smart Mouth. Just 2 rinses a day means fresh breath for 24 hours.
Find it at your favorite drug, grocery, or or Supercenter store, or save 20% at smartmouth.com/radio.
The following program will be recorded.
Being aware of the world around you is important.
When it comes to news, yes, I am.
So we're feeding your need to know 24/7 at the top and bottom of the hour.
I like to know what's going on in my locality, abroad.
Events of the world.
Fairly so. Yeah, I'm pretty connected.
Or down the street.
For the most part, I know what's going on.
You know, I need to be aware and what to look out for, and I'm real cautious, so yeah, I need to have that.
It's what we do. News Radio 690 KTSM.
Donna from Louisiana. The storm just hit, and we went from donating to the food bank to needing it.
Hunger is a story we can end. End it at feedingamerica.org. Brought to you by Feeding America.
News on the hour
Council.
and a half. Traffic and weather all day. News Radio 690 is KTSM AM El Paso, an iHeart radio station.
NBC News Radio, I'm Brian Shook. U.S. officials are warning that Russia could use chemical weapons in an attack on Ukraine. An official with the Biden administration told NBC News that the U.S. is concerned after Russia made a claim that Ukraine was planning a false flag chemical weapon attack. The White House says Russian President Putin's actions have shaken the global oil market.
We've seen the price of gas increase, as I noted, 75 cents since the beginning of the year as Putin built up his military near Ukraine and took increasingly aggressive measures.
Press Secretary Jen Psaki noted oil companies have thousands of approved leases for drilling they can start using at any time. President Biden imposed a ban on Russian oil imports to the U.S. this week. The market is up as oil prices are down at the end of Wall Street's day. Airlines and cruise lines were big winners in today's session as Carnival Corp and United Airlines both notched major gains. Experts warn trading will continue to be volatile. At the closing bell, the Dow gained 654 points. Disney's CEO is revealing the company worked behind the scenes against Florida's parental rights in education bill before it passed. Lisa Taylor reports.
The measure, dubbed by critics as the Don't Say Gay bill, prohibits teachers in grades K through 3 from discussing LGBTQ issues with students. Bob Chapek told shareholders, "I understand our political approach, no matter how well-intentioned, didn't quite get the job done." Disney recently released a statement that said the company remains committed to inclusion, but did not condemn the proposal. Chapek said Disney is donating $5 million to benefit the LGBTQ community and will meet with Florida Republican Governor Ron DeSantis.
Major League Baseball is postponing 2 more weeks of regular season games. In a statement released by the league, it was announced opening day is moving to at least April 14th after talks today stalled. You're listening to the latest from NBC News Radio. The Wall Street Journal is reporting that the leaders of Saudi Arabia and the United Arab Emirates are refusing to take President Biden's call. Mike Bauer explains.
President Biden had hoped to discuss boosting oil exports to offset the increase of gas prices linked to Russia's war in Ukraine. But the Middle East leaders have declined his calls. Saudi officials say their relationship with the U.S. has deteriorated since the Biden administration took over, citing Biden's lack of support in the civil war in Yemen and negotiations concerning the Iran nuclear deal moving forward instead of their own program. Saudi Arabia has also been pushing for legal immunity for Prince Mohammed in the U.S. The prince faces lawsuits and is accused of killing journalist Jamal Khashoggi in 2018.
Some lawmakers want the Justice Department to step in and investigate Amazon for allegedly misleading a House committee. The e-commerce giant is accused of leading the Judiciary Committee astray as it looked into big tech companies and their competitive practices. Among the issues lawmakers cite is third-party sellers' data. The committee's Democratic chairman signed the letter, and so did Republicans like Matt Gaetz of Florida. An iconic New York City Lincoln Center Theater will reopen this fall after being renovated. Scott Pringle has more.
After more than a $500 million renovation, work at the famous David Geffen Hall will be complete in October. That's 2 years ahead of schedule.
It will revolutionize the acoustics and the concert-going experience, and it will provide flexibility for artists and audiences in the future.
That's Catherine Farley, the chair of the board of directors at Lincoln Center, who also says David Geffen Hall will provide new public spaces for performances and cultural events, most of which will be free. The hall is home to the New York Philharmonic.
Fans of the 1990 film Edward Scissorhands now have a chance to get their hands on a piece of the film's history. The Lutz, Florida home made famous by the movie is for sale for just under $700,000. Brian Shook, NBC News Radio.
Hey, you! Ever wanted to learn a language like French or Spanish or even Norwegian, but thought it'd be too difficult or time-consuming? Then try Babbel. Quick 10-minute lessons.
Siesta.
Bambola. Games, podcasts, even live online classes with a real teacher. Hola, clase. In no time, chatting about real-life topics will feel, well, effortless. Learn a new language with ease. Go to Babbel.com to try for free. That's Babbel.com.
Are you covered by Medicare and Medicaid? Well, El Paso Health Plus is the plan for you. As a local Medicare Advantage plan, we can offer our members more. Call us at 833-742-3125 or EPHMedicare.com. El Paso Health Plus.
Hey, this is John Hope Bryant, entrepreneur and fellow builder, just like you. Thanks to the help of iHeartRadio and Prudential Financial, I like to present to you my brand new podcast, Building the Good Life, where each week a special friend and I will break down and unveil the mysteries of how you build. So if you're ready to build like you've never thought you could before, the best version of you, make sure to listen every Friday on the iHeartRadio app or wherever you get your podcast.
Stay tuned and stay informed with News Radio 690, KTSM, an iHeart radio station.
If you think making false threats is a joke, think again. Any communication threatening students, teachers, and staff at schools or public places is a federal crime that could lock people behind prison doors for up to 5 years.
I'm FBI Deputy Director David Bowditch, making you aware that hoax threats have real consequences. We don't want to see a young person begin their adult lives with a felony record.
Making false threats is not a joke. Think before you post. Visit FBI.gov.
El Paso's News Radio 690 KTSM.